Hello, I'm Melissa Hekalea, and this is TVB News. Today is October 7th, 2024, 1 year since Palestinian fighters launched a stunning raid on Israel, leaving about 1,200 people dead. Around 250 hostages were taken by Hamas and other groups, with some 100 still held in Gaza. Almost 42,000 people in Gaza have since been killed in subsequent Israeli airstrikes, and hundreds of others have died in Lebanon amid fighting between Israel and the Iran-backed militia group Hezbollah. Today, gatherings were held in Israel, marking the one-year anniversary of the Hamas attack. Nazvi Karim reports.
As dawn broke in southern Israel, they gathered at the site of the Nova Music Festival. 6:30 a.m., the last festival track that was played 1 year ago before fighters from Hamas and other Palestinian groups surged into the area in a surprise attack. Later on, a more somber moment as a man with a guitar sings to families of some 400 people killed on October 7, 2023. Israeli President Isaac Herzog joined the mourners. They are gathered here because of this, previously unseen footage of the attack 1 year ago. Drone shots of soldiers and civilians taking cover. A Palestinian fighter firing his weapon. Israeli troops rushing to join their fellow soldiers. In Jerusalem, a 2-minute siren, a custom on occasions such as Holocaust Remembrance and Memorial Day, blares out during a silent protest near the residence of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. These are the families of some 100 hostages still held in Gaza, around 30 of whom are believed to have died. They are demanding the Israeli government do something to speed up their release. In Gaza, Palestinians wander the streets of what looks to be a post-apocalyptic world, the result of 12 months of relentless Israeli bombing. Close to 42,000 people are dead, 2 million displaced, and basic infrastructure almost completely destroyed. What used to be a thriving thoroughfare, now a desolate wasteland. A city decades in the making, reduced to ruins. But Gaza is now almost an afterthought in a widening conflict. Lebanese group Hezbollah and Israel's military have been exchanging fire across Israel's northern border for a year. The conflict has escalated with intensified Israeli airstrikes using mostly American weaponry on Hezbollah targets in Lebanon, along with a ground incursion into the south of the country. Iran has joined the fray, last week sending around 180 missiles into Israel. This in response to the assassinations of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran and Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah in Beirut. Yemen's Iran-backed Houthi group, who are part of the so-called Axis of Resistance, has been disrupting shipping in the region in support of Hamas. In the latest exchange, Hezbollah fired rockets into northern Israel, hitting targets in Haifa and Tiberias. Sirens wailed as Israeli officials say 10 people suffered minor injuries. Despite global calls for a ceasefire and multiple rounds of peace talks, fighting has only intensified. 1 year on and the region is no closer to peace, amid growing fears of an all-out war that could draw in the United States and even Iran's ally, Russia. Nazvi Karim, TVB News.
People around the world took part in pro-Palestinian and pro-Israeli protests on the eve of the first anniversary of the Hamas attack on Israel. Daniel Rao tells us more.
Sunday's events followed massive rallies that took place on Saturday. Other events are scheduled through the week, with an expected peak on Monday, the date of the anniversary of the Hamas attack. Thousands gathered in Paris for a Jewish memorial event featuring speakers and artists paying tribute to those killed in the attack and standing with those still in captivity.
Free Gaza from Hamas!
Hundreds of demonstrators in Berlin marched behind a banner that read against all anti-Semitism. With scores of Israeli flags waving overhead, some Jewish leaders led a song about shalom, the Hebrew word for peace, while marchers chanted "Free Gaza from Hamas" and "Bring them home," referring to hostages still held by Hamas. In London, thousands gathered in Hyde Park in a similar memorial event. The crowds chanted "Bring them home" and waved Israeli flags and placards with the faces of hostages still held by Hamas. Take me! Elsewhere, pro-Palestine protests took place in Istanbul. Waving Turkish and Palestinian flags while chanting slogans in support of Palestinians, protesters condemned Israel. Among the participants was Bilal Erdogan, the son of Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, who was seen joining the chants and waving flags with his family. In Morocco's capital, Rabat, thousands marched by parliament and called on the government to revoke its 2020 agreement formalizing the country's ties with Israel. Morocco's government has spoken out against the war in Gaza but retained its ties with Israel. Pope Francis, celebrating his Sunday Angelus prayer from the Vatican, issued a new appeal for peace on every front. Francis also urged his audience not to forget the many hostages still held in Gaza, asking for their immediate liberation. The Pope called for a day of prayer and fasting on Monday, the first anniversary of the attack. Dan Rell, TVB News.
In Pakistan, a massive explosion outside Karachi's international airport has killed 2 Chinese nationals and injured at least 10 others. In a statement emailed to journalists, separatist militant group Baloch Liberation Army claimed responsibility for the attack. The Chinese embassy in Pakistan has called for a thorough investigation and measures to ensure the safety of Chinese citizens, including engineers in the country. Danny Zhou reports.
A thick column of smoke rising from a road close to Karachi's Jinnah International Airport at around 11 p.m. on Sunday. At least 10 vehicles, including a police van, were engulfed by flames. A staff member of the Civil Aviation Department said the blast was intense enough to shake the airport's buildings. Military and police units were deployed to the scene. Initial reports suggested the fire started with the explosion of an oil tanker, but police later confirmed it was a bombing attack. The Baloch Liberation Army, or BLA, said it had carried out the attack using a vehicle-borne improvised explosive device. The BLA said the perpetrator, Shah Fahad, a member of the group's Suicide Squad Majid Brigade, targeted a convoy of Chinese workers. The Chinese embassy said a convoy from the Port Qasim Electric Power Company was attacked near the airport. 2 Chinese staff members of the China-funded electricity company were confirmed dead, while another employee was injured. A number of Pakistani citizens also sustained injuries. The Chinese embassy strongly condemned what it called a terrorist attack and said China is working with Pakistan to handle the aftermath. Pakistani authorities extended condolences and sympathies to the victims' families and promised the perpetrators would be punished. Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif pledged on the social platform X that his country will leave no stone unturned to ensure the safety and well-being of their Chinese friends. The blast came just ahead of this year's Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit in Pakistan. The event will open on October the 15th, and Premier Li Qiang is expected to be in Islamabad for talks. Beijing has raised security warnings for Chinese citizens in Pakistan, especially those involved in development projects such as the Gwadar port under the Belt and Road Initiative. The BLA, which demands a cession of Balochistan from Pakistan, accused Beijing of aiding Islamabad in exploiting the province and staged attacks targeting Chinese interests in recent years. A total of 14 Chinese engineers were killed in BLA attacks near the Darsu hydropower project in 2024 and 2021. The group also attacked the Chinese consulate in Karachi in 2018, which killed 3 Pakistani police officers. Danny Zhou, TVB News.
Hong Kong stocks continue to surge, with the Hang Seng Index rising to over 23,000 points. The market is paying close attention to the CSI 300 index on the mainland, as it will resume trading activities tomorrow after the end of the National Day Golden Week holiday. This, as the National Development and Reform Commission noted, it will hold a press conference, with the market speculating that there may be more measures to stimulate the market in the near future. Timothy Lee tells us more.
Share prices skyrocketed on the Shanghai and Shenzhen stock exchanges prior to the start of the National Day Golden Week holiday and set a new record for transaction figures. Several brokerage firms in Guangzhou maintained operations through the National Day break and continued to set up accounts for their clients. The manager of a local brokerage firm said requests for opening accounts during the Golden Week alone increased by over 260% compared with the previous week. This as the National Development and Reform Commission announced it will hold a press conference on Tuesday morning, with the market speculating that more economic stimuli may be in the cards. In a bid to prevent congestion on its platform, the Shanghai Stock Exchange, or SSE, said it will extend the time allowed for reporting transaction orders starting on Tuesday. The SSE and its Shenzhen counterpart also ran a series of tests earlier to prepare for the resumption of trade. Meanwhile, some mainland economists urged locals to maintain caution when investing in the market. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
12 former employees of the children's residential home in Mongkok were found guilty of child abuse today. 10 were sentenced to prison terms ranging from 6 to 64 months. The remaining 2 were handed 180 hours of community service. The 12 defendants arrived at the district court in Wan Chai. In 2021, the 12 were employees at the children's residential home under the Hong Kong Society for the Protection of Children. They were accused of abusing children multiple times and faced more than 140 counts of charges. Judge Lily Wong today said the behavior of the defendants was disgraceful and cold-blooded. Almost 40 children were abused. Police arrested and prosecuted 39 former employees of the children's residential home. Most of them received jail sentences. A man was sentenced to 16 months in jail after being found guilty of inciting to cause grievous bodily harm with intent to former Chief Executive Carrie Lam. The man, aged 64, discussed how to murder then Chief Executive Carrie Lam on a Facebook post in 2020. The court handed down its ruling today. Judge Stanley Chan said the post could have intensified conflicts and incitement. While the initial jail sentence was 18 months, the judge reduced it by 2 months because of the man's health. The judge also took into account the fact that the man agreed with the case presented by the prosecution. Recently shuttered gym chain Physical was ordered by the Small Claims Tribunal to pay 2 customers around $150,000 over unsatisfactory services. According to one of the claims, a customer purchased 2 treatment sessions in October 2022 that cost more than $100,000. The customer claimed these sessions did not meet the original description for services promised and said the fitness company breached the terms of its contract. The customer filed a claim demanding a refund. The other claimant said Physical breached its contract and applied misleading sales tactics in October last year. The customer filed a claim for some $37,000. The fitness chain did not send a representative to court today. Welcome back. Central Thailand braced for flood Sunday after authorities announced it was releasing water from a major dam after weeks of heavy rain. The deluge has stopped in northern Thailand, but in some areas, many remain cut off by waist-high floodwaters. Concern too for animals in parks and sanctuaries on the outskirts of the northern city of Chiang Mai. Many elephants had to be led to safety, but some helped relief teams in their rescue efforts. Tracy Furness has more.
As people waded through waist-deep floodwaters in the northern city of Chiang Mai, Thai relief workers brought in some serious muscle to help reach residents cut off by the water. Elephants carried relief waters to a community in Seraphai district, about 20 kilometers outside the city. The towering beast strode seemingly untroubled through water levels that were too deep for humans. Just a few days ago, authorities and conservationists were rushing to rescue the elephants and other animals from flash flooding. A herd of elephants had been seen running through the water, trumpeting loudly. Most of the 125 elephants held in the city's Elephant Nature Park were led to safety. Traditionally, elephants have been used as work animals in Thailand, but these days they are endangered and more have gone to sanctuaries. Meanwhile, rescue workers pull a boat in knee-deep water through the streets of Chiang Mai. Muddy water bubbling up as a boat is pulled past. Many people in the city remained cut off by floodwaters, and rescue workers supplied them with food or evacuated them. Popular tourist areas such as the night market and Taipei Gate were under a meter of water. Electricity supplies had been cut off in some neighborhoods for safety reasons. The latest flooding in Chiang Mai occurred when the water level of the Ping River on the eastern edge of the city began overrunning its banks on Friday. Rail services were suspended with northbound trains from Bangkok terminating in Lampang, where travellers had to then use buses. Chiang Mai Airport continued operating, but flooded roads delayed accessing it. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
The Nobel Prize in Medicine has been awarded to two Americans. Victor Ambrose and Gary Ruvkun were recognized for their discovery of microRNA, a fundamental principle governing how gene activity is regulated. The Nobel Assembly said their discovery is proving to be fundamentally important for how organisms develop and function. The prize carries a cash award of 11 million Swedish kroner, or about $1 million US. Over the next few days, prizes will be announced for physics, chemistry, and literature. The Nobel Peace Prize will be announced on Friday. China's Belt and Road Initiative has helped many countries, one of them being Madagascar. Agricultural specialists from China have traveled to the African nation, which frequently suffers from food shortages, to share their knowledge on improving local rice farming techniques. The agricultural experts hope they can prevent famines from ever occurring again on the continent. Timothy Lee has more.
Madagascar, an island nation off the main African continent, is one of the poorest countries in the world. With a population of around 30 million, most residents in Madagascar earn less than 20 Hong Kong dollars a day and often survive by collecting garbage. Besides economic challenges, Madagascar also has to deal with a host of problems caused by climate change. The combination of rising temperatures and shortage of rain has led to crop yield losses, especially rice, the locals' main source of food. A serious drought struck Madagascar 3 years ago, resulting in hundreds of thousands of people suffering from famine. In a bid to improve the lives of the Malagasy people, the United Nations Environment Program said the key to change is improving rice varieties. Hu Yuefang, an agricultural specialist from China, first arrived in Madagascar in 2008. He noted the poor quality of local seeds and outdated farming techniques. After spending a decade improving irrigation techniques and introducing 3 rice varieties suitable for the local climate, Hu and his team said rice production has doubled and greatly increased income for local farmers.
我们要从零开始跟他们进行辅导和培训。
Hu hopes improved rice farming techniques could spread beyond Madagascar to all of Africa and prevent famine from happening again on the continent. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
Movie props used in 6 scenes from a homemade film about the Kowloon walled city are being displayed at Hong Kong International Airport until the end of November. The exhibition attracted the interest of locals and overseas tourists. Mimo Sangai reports.
Those who have watched Twilight of the Warriors walled in may recall this tea store where residents of the walled city socialize. The tea store is owned by one of the characters, Cyclone, a crime lord who rules the area. Does this bowl of char siu rice remind you of the friendship between Cyclone and trouble youth Chan Lok Guan? Another nostalgic set is this grocery shop. Old sweets and toys. Is it like being transported back to 1980s Hong Kong?
This set, meanwhile, shows the public what a 1980s barber shop was like, complete with the iconic red chairs.
I think it can greatly show the traditional Hong Kong style village a long time ago. I heard that making this movie use a lot of facilities and also material, even though we don't know if they will have episode 2 of the movie. But to display in Hong Kong airport would be a great place to let other overseas people to know more about the history of Hong Kong.
It's good actually. I've never went to the walled city, but I feel like it looks like it should be quite authentic. I like that it's the airport. You come out, you get a feel of Hong Kong.
How about the film? Will you consider watching the film?
I think I will now actually. Yeah.
3、2、1 Chief Executive John Lee and other representatives attended a launch ceremony for the exhibition. Deputy Financial Secretary Michael Wong was also there. Lee said the film had received notable attention from local and overseas communities. He said authorities aim to further promote tourism using the film's influence. The 6.5-meter-high double-story film replica will stay at the airport until November 20th. The exhibition will then be held in a shopping mall in Kai Tak. Mainland tourists were also able to enjoy the exhibition, many of them heading home on the final day of their week-long National Day holiday. News 9, TVB News.
That's the news. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.